is one of England's greatest ever goalkeepers, but behind the fame and football accolades, Peter Shilton was living with a secret gambling addiction, one that he says nearly ruined him mentally, physically and financially.
Well, Peter is now 6 years into recovery and says he owes it all to his wife, Steph.
And they both join us now after sharing their story in their new book, Saved, and this is it here. Welcome, both of you.
Yeah, lovely.
And this really is a partnership story, if ever there was one. And you say, Peter, that it was time to tell your story now. Why? Why now?
Well, obviously, you know, I managed to overcome it with Steph's help, the addiction, or Steph calls it an illness. And I felt that there's a big epidemic of gambling out there, and it's getting worse and worse. And I think it's a bit hidden from the public, and there's a lot of people who can't quit, you know, some suicides. And I just felt that I'd quit and I'd got the experience, you know, I had to really let people know how bad it was so they could trust me to say, look, this is how you overcome it and you can stop and have a better life.
And there is a way through it, which is such an important message, and that's what the book does. How did it start for you? How did you get into it in the first place, gambling?
I was just very young. I mean, I always just liked horse racing, not so much all the machine games, which are even more toxic these days with online, but it was just a love of racing. And it started out as a hobby, but like we all know, you know, it becomes an addiction, not to everybody, but a lot of people have got it. And it just creeps up on you, and you suddenly start just gambling every day. And the thing is, even if you win, you know, you're on a high, but if you lose, you're on a high because you've had the excitement. And that's the big draw that gambling has for people.
And Steph, for you, I mean, obviously it's going on around you. He's watching the football race, the racing on the telly, and he's got the sound down, and it's all a bit, you know, sort of a bit quiet, and so that's sort of insidious. But it was actually looking at the bank statements when he was in India that showed you that there was something going on here.
Yes, so I became the investigator, really. So we were having this life of cat and mouse, I think, because I needed to find out that if my suspicion was right, because you become so suspicious with this sort of behaviour. And obviously when I opened the bank statement, well, Pete was in India. It was a mixture of emotions because I knew I'd breached his personal, private mail, but at the same time it was a huge shock, and I think anyone in that position...
Was it apparent straight away, as soon as you saw that, how bad
Yeah, there was like 9 or 10 pages, and I just got the calculator out and I could clearly see it was all going to one betting company, and I felt sick. I had a panic attack. I was so frightened for Pete, you know, more than anything, because I suddenly realised it was chronic. I didn't realise it was that bad.
And this is serious amounts of money that we're talking about here.
Yes,
I mean, this is life-changing amounts of money. And do you think part of the reason why you were able to spend so much money on it was because the accessibility, you know, you go from watching the horse racing or we're going placing a bet at the bookies, but in your pocket is this kind of mini casino that you have access to, that all your bank details are in, and you can just ping, 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 and away.
I mean, obviously, when I started gambling many years ago, it was a totally different ball game. You know, you just had 3 high street bookmakers, but now this is where the problem started. It's so accessible to everybody, you know, who can just go and within hours can lose a fortune.
How much money do you think you've lost?
I think over the years it must be millions. You know, I lost 800,000 to one bookmaker, but that was online, and was really, you know, it was toxic.
Put limits in so that when you get to that daily limit, you can't bet anymore. There are no limits.
No limits, and that's the problem. And I had even, when I found the bank statement, in pure desperation, I'd even emailed the betting company, gave them his user ID, and begged them for help. So they were fully aware, but they didn't put any markers on his account or anything. They didn't action at all.
And that was one of the reasons we, you know, only one of the reasons that we wanted to write this book, because it gives, obviously, you know, how I got addicted, the sort of things I went through, because I want people who are addicted to know that I know what they're feeling.
Yes.
And that you can stop, you know, and with help. And obviously Steph played a big part in that, because she was 20 years in NHS, and she said she looked on it as an illness, which helped, but she played a massive part in making me realise that it was a better life than just thinking I'm going to have a bet every day.
And you were, I mean, you were his absolute rock. There is no doubt about it. But living with somebody who's got an addiction like this, it is a drain and a strain on yourself. And with that, and this is years. I mean, this isn't just like a few weeks. You have to stand by someone.
Yeah.
This is years of somebody going through this, and you do start to emotionally withdraw.
Well, I think for me that's why I'm so passionate about what we decided to do with the book, because I know how comforting that would have been for me, because as a loved one you start to behave having this secret life as well, because it's not something, you know, I could openly talk to somebody about. So I think from a loved one's point of view, you are the silent victim as much as what the addict is as well. You are definitely affected by it. And
One of the main catalysts for you was the fact that you thought, if I don't do something about this, I'm going to lose Steph.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
So that was the catalyst. How did you do it then? How did you manage to back away from it?
I think Steph would play like a football manager. She kept gradually putting the word lose into every conversation. And suddenly, one day I had a bad weekend and I went upstairs and I knew by then Steph was really getting... Because Steph is the sort of person, money counts, she was taught at the value of money from an early age, you know, she's very responsible in that respect. And I went upstairs and I phoned an agent to, it's all in the book, to actually ask for, you know, some money I'd already done a job for, and he said, I'll pay you early, Peter. And as I looked round, Steph was stood there and I could see her face. And I knew that I think I was going to lose her. And not only that, I knew that deep down, you know, I needed a better life. And I was getting to a point where I thought, what am I doing? All I do is lose money. Yeah. I'm getting nothing out of it. All I'm getting is pain. And since that moment, I go past the betting shop now and I feel a bit nausea because I know what that means. And to me, it would never, ever return. But we know through people getting in touch with us that people have stopped and then they start again. But we deal with that in the book. We say, look, no, you know, it's like letting a bad goal in the first minute of a game. You don't just collapse, you know, you try and make a few saves and end up winning the game. Yeah. So that's the sort of scenario.
It was a terrific moment when Pete quit. It really was. I'm probably going to get emotional, but it was one of the greatest moments of my life.
Because you got him back.
I won.
Yeah.
And we loved each other so much. We got on so well. So there's an age difference, but that never happened. We just knew that we loved each other. And I knew that Steph...
And I knew Pete meant it, because he fell on me and it was almost like 45 years drained out of his body. Yeah. And we just literally fell on the sofa where he just was a dead weight, where... you know, it all finally came to the head. And
in the book, Steph obviously gives her side of the story. It's quite unique, because I don't think there's been a book ever written like this, where you've got two people
and
telling their own...
both sides are so important in this story.
Because it's the family
really
members, isn't it, Steph,
Yeah,
around the addict that really can help, or are suffering as well.
Yeah. Well, on page 81, you say, before I met Steph, I could not see a life without gambling. It was like I had this little ray of warm light enter into my dark world. I'm now in the best place of my life and free of gambling, thanks to Steph's help, which is a beautiful thing.
It really is.
What changes would you like to see in the gambling industry, both of you?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's the amount of advertising is unbelievable. And I just think from when it was 2005, there's... You know, the law, they were given carte blanche, really. I just think it's gone like, you know, a rodeo. You know, it's out of control. We've got all these meaningless, you know, gamble responsibly and timeouts and all that. But we've dealt with gambling companies and they're ruthless and they're interested in getting people's money. And we've heard so many stories. So there needs better regulation, you know, it's a bit more responsible monitoring of what people can afford, that type of thing. And, you know, these free spins have got to stop, you know, because that entices people. You know, entices people. And pop-up advertisements. We know somebody that quit and then went abroad, got these pop-ups, lost all his money in a day and then committed suicide.
Oh, my God.
And that's how bad it is. And the public don't realise, under the surface, how bad the problem is getting, especially with kids as well. Yeah. And also, we've got a shirt ban for football. We believe that's what children are getting groomed in a backdoor way into gambling.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
This is what we've been talking about. It's Saved. There's a foreword by Gary Lineker in there as well, overcoming a 45-year gambling addiction. Thank you both.
Thank you.